Chapter 1. Rana. I gazed at the lazy length of sunbeam, stretching and yawning over the countertop. It was a welcome visitor every April noon, dropping in from the south-facing windows of my kitchen, mingling with the counters and floors, walls and doors, adding a little hue and cheer to anything it touched. A few months on, its arrival would be more dramatic, sizzling up the air with a bright orange intensity. Summers here, in the land of legends, were sweltering, downright brutal for those not used to the Mediterranean climate. Until then, however, spring was the balmy time of tulips and tourists, of the Hidarella's folk dances and Navruz bonfires, the season of bustle, bloom, and romance. The smile on my lips was spring, but my heart was burning like summer, bright, unwaveringly intense, every flaming beat fueled by the red pulsing of love, my love for him, and his love for me, his Bertanem, the most beautiful piece of his otherwise stark heart, as he often said. My Bertanem. The husky voice from a sudden rush of memories brushed past my earlobes. The skin on my nape tingled and my chest tightened from the skipping of an abrupt beat. Halim? I was a tad too late to spin around, as always. He'd already stalked me from behind, pinning me to the counter. Somehow, I never heard his stealthy footfall, even if I could sense his presence with every cell of my being. He hovered by my cheek, planting near kisses, only because they allowed him to linger close for longer than a quick peck did. He was devious that way. That smells lovely, he whispered, and I couldn't tell if he was complimenting my improving culinary skills or the Dior perfume he'd got me for our first-month anniversary. Capturing my waist in a soft, unyielding grip, he spun me around, a glimmer of sweet danger flashing in those ash eyes as his warmth and cologne left me gloriously paralyzed in my spot. Have you read my mind or something, Rana? He twisted a stubbornly stray lock of mine around his finger. Because the shade of your cheeks matched the berry shade of your lipstick. Seitan tutu, I hissed, masking my gasp with a grin. Some wise Turk had coined that term for devilishly attractive charmers. I'm sure that Turk had Halim Adair in mind when he did so. Oh, Halim. I exhaled raggedly, realizing I'd drifted 1,000,000 miles away, thanks to my cheeks burning like I was running a fever. You know, you're going to be the death of me one day. I shot a hard frown at him and his deceptively gentle smile in the photo that occupied center spot in my newly decorated kitchen wall. It was a candid shot from our wedding. We'd spent hundreds on a professional European photographer, but the one photo we'd chosen to blow up in frame was a picture captured by a mutual friend. I'd just burst out laughing at someone's joke, and he was standing beside us watching, the steely grays of his eyes softening on me like I was the only soul in the entire hall. Ay in mi room, I chided myself. I wasn't even going to get halfway through my list of chores this way. Biting my lips, I tucked back the stray lock, teasing my nose with my flour-dusted knuckles. Patting the top of the dough I'd been kneading for the past half an hour, I ensured it was evenly supple, by pinching a blob and popping it in my mouth. Oh, it's come out so well. Even Anne and Baba would be proud. I dampened a washcloth and covered the bowl. An hour or two later, the yeast would have worked its magic, and I'd be able to enjoy a delicious meal of lamb lahmacun, a healthy Turkish pizza, for dinner. His favorite. Weekdays were a mayhem, nearly 12 hours of it taken by work. It was weekends when I got an opportunity to ferment dough or chase the week's buildup of dust away from the furniture. Sticking the double pot on the stove to brew some tea, I sashayed my way out of the kitchen to the tune of Muhur playing on my lips. There was a mountain of laundry on the couch that was crying for my attention. Pajamas, pajamas. I rifled through the heap, sorting them into bundles. Towels, washcloths, silk blouses. I picked up the blouse and tucked it into a hanger when the tune on my mobile phone began ringing. Anne? A smile played on my lips as I braced myself for the hurricane that was about to blow my way. My mother did not have this outlet from Monday to Friday, so she unleashed all of her Rana frustrations on Saturday. Frustrations against a daughter who'd studied too much, worked too hard, and married too late. Not to mention, broke off her engagement with the family misogynist. Of course, Anne and Baba did approve of Halim. Secretly, they liked him far more than they ever liked my cousin, Amir. But that didn't mean they wouldn't use my walkout as ammunition whenever they were in the mood to wage a small war. Hi, Anne. I cleared my throat. How are you? How's your knee? And how has Baba been feeling? Still no headaches with the new BP medication, right? Stop treating us like patients. Go on, tell me what you've been up to instead, she prodded, using one of her chirpier tones. Sorting the laundry now? Oh, by the way, I made some lamakundo, and I think it is going to come out perfectly, I added, hoping to score a point on her weekly scoreboard. Why don't you and Baba join me for dinner tonight? She let out a loud exhale, and I pictured her falling back against the headrest of her favorite couch. You do know about the state of my knee. It's become worse. It's still cold. Taking a trip to your city will kill me. I nodded. Though she made it sound like I lived a whole country away, our apartment was less than an hour from theirs. S0. She abruptly cut off the knee talk. Why won't you hire a housemaid? I've recommended a million names, but you won't pick one. She paused, a little wheezy. Anne, take it slow. There's this woman who comes to Korea's apartment weekly. She cooks and cleans. It's only 250 lira per visit. Never charges for overtime. And her husband isn't even a businessman like Halim is. It was the second time I was hearing about this wonder maid. Hiring a housemaid was a status symbol. Like Halim's success. Like living in one of the better neighborhoods of Ankara. And like shopping in a mall instead of the bazaar. The sort that stamped an invisible badge beside our family name, upgrading us from the middle tiers to the upper leagues of society. Something that was a dream come true for my parents, who'd come from a town where folks still burned trash to keep themselves warm. Unfortunately, the fact that I'd risen up the ranks, from intern to become a full-time assistant secretary at the reputed office of the Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources, did not feature in this list. The soft whistle of the pot drew me out of my thoughts, telling me that a little treat, apple tea infusion, was waiting for me. I made my sprightly way back into the kitchen, poured myself a cup, and returned to the living room, setting the cup on the side table. Meanwhile, her conversation had veered all over the map, complaining about me, complaining about meat prices, complaining about the news, complaining about TV shows, complaining about her sister-in-law, complaining about the weather, above all, complaining about Baba. She paused, but only because her lungs needed another refueling of air. Anne, you're out of breath. Oh yes. Where was I? The maid. Having a maid will free up your weekends and you can spend time with us. Now that was something she was right about. And if I so much as parted my lips to moan about the growing pile of housework to Halim, he'd bring me a huge list of professional agencies and an army of help in a day. The truth? I did not want that sort of pampering. Though my mother thought otherwise, I was a simple Turkish woman, a free bird who enjoyed caring for my little nest, one that Halim and I recently bought and beautified together, where I spent my days enjoying his company when he was in Ankara, and reveled in the memories of his smile, his kiss, his touch, and his fragrance whenever work took him away from me, which is often enough. The light bubbly feeling in my chest steadily grew heavy and sank, like a small pebble. I put down my cup of tea, switched the mobile to speaker mode, and placed it on the cushion beside me. My free hand eagerly crept forth to pull out his blue shirt from the laundry pile, the one he'd worn to work a week ago. The laundry detergent had wiped away most of his natural masculine scent, but as I buried my face deep into his collar, I could smell an alluring whiff of woody musk. At times, when the weight of longing got too much to bear, I wore his shirt to bed so I felt like he was beside me. Of course, I never dared to tell him that. Forget my cheek. He'd make all of me go berry red with his sly glances and remarks if I so much as hinted about it. I love you, Halim, and I miss you. So much. One final exhale of his neck, and I put the shirt away on a hanger so I could return to the rest of the clothes that had been woefully ignored. And Rana, did you get your monthly cycle in April too? My eyelids shut under a fresh mini-wave of annoyance. Yes, Anne. Oh no, I think you should have yourself checked by a doctor, Rana. You're 34. What? I spurted the sip of tea that I'd downed a little too quickly, wiping my lips with a kerchief. Only last week I was supposed to be 33? In reality, I was still 32. But of course, no amount of calendars were going to convince a woman who was on a warpath towards grandmotherhood. You say you're a simple woman who likes to cook and clean, but you don't want children, Rana. Oh, Anne, you're being silly now. I do want children. 2 babies, a boy and a girl, my happy little family. However, Halim and I had decided to spoil ourselves in the lap of a little wedded bliss for the first couple of years before starting a family. I didn't blame her for this intrusion, though. Most women my age had school kids, and she wasn't being different from any other overbearing, overprotective Turkish mother, really. For that matter, I didn't blame her for any of the other Rana rants either. Books and technology had expanded my horizon in ways her traditional upbringing never had. Besides, I knew she loved me in her own way. She'd come limping all the way to me, dragging her wobbly knee behind her, if I so much as coughed. "Rana, you've gone all quiet on me again, my dear. Angry? With your Anne?" "No." I laughed with a little daughterly triumph, but I really didn't want to delve into another debate. Daydreaming had taken up a good bit of my day, and I still had a lot to finish before bedtime. "Oops, something's on the stove, Anne. It's burning." I raised my pitch by a staccato. "I'll call you later. I love you. Mwah, mwah, mwah." I smothered the mic with kisses, so it would take her a while to reel from all those echoes of affection. "And Baba, tell him I love him too. Remind him, no salt, no oil. Mwah, mwah, mwah." Once I'd cut the call, I finished putting the clothes away and returned to the kitchen with my empty cup. As I washed the dishes, a tiny fuzzy spot of red hovering somewhere by my side tugged at my attention. It was the cross I'd marked on the calendar. The countdown to his return. 3 days to go. A wistful haze dewed my eyes. A whole week this time. I knew I was being a little juvenile. Very juvenile, perhaps. I was a grown woman who took care of myself for 30 years before he came into it. From time immemorial, ladies all over the world watched their lovers leave family behind for the sake of duty. And Halim wasn't gone to war, only business. That too, only for a few days at a time. So, this sudden inability to function without him would be hilarious if it didn't come with such a gnawing ache. 6 months ago, during our first official goodbye, as I stood at our doorstep, having to tear my hands away from his shoulders, I told myself at the sight of his diminishing silhouette that this would get easier with time. That this cold ache of separation was simply because I was still basking in the warm vibes of a new relationship. I was wrong. So wrong. For some inexplicable reason, it got worse, and this week was officially the worst. My skin burned for his touch, my soul starved for the comfort of his presence. Before meeting him, I would have laughed if someone asked me to define lovesick. Now, I was suffering it. Literally. My pangs twisting tighter and tighter with every passing day that I did not see him. I even woke up with a cold sweat 2 nights ago from a nightmare. The plane crash that I'd seen on TV before bedtime might have caused it. I never revealed the slightest hint of these insecurities to him, though. Not even about the nightmare, when he called me last night from the restaurant he was dining at, in Times Square, his mouth semi-stuffed with something he was clearly enjoying. "Bertanim, I'm gorging on some gourmet kebabs. I'm telling you, they're delicious, but they're missing the Rana touch," he'd moaned. "My handsome liar. I made the worst kebabs in all of Turkey. Missing you,